Welcome to Old Saints for New Days. I'm the Reverend George Wiley, serving as canon pastor for the diocese. If you are listening to this service or watching it from a remote location, a special welcome to you. There's a restaurant in Orlando called Mrs. Potato. You wouldn't know it from the name, but it's Brazilian. As writer Bob Greene tells the story, something remarkable happened there last month. A waitress named Flaviane Carvalho was bringing meals to a table of four: a man, a woman, a little girl, and an older boy. Mrs. Carvalho noticed something, that the adults and the girl sat on one side of the table and the boy on the other by himself. She also noticed that no one had ordered food for the boy. She thought that strange. Then she noticed that the boy had a cut above his nose and some bruises on his arm. Mrs. Carvalho noticed. She went back to the kitchen, wrote on a piece of paper, "Are you okay?" in large letters. Then she went back to the table, stood behind the adults so that they could not see her, and held up the piece of paper so the boy could see it. He made some kind of motion with his head, but she couldn't tell what he was saying. So she went back, got another piece of paper, wrote, "Do you need help?" and came again, held it up, and the boy this time nodded his head yes. Mrs. Carvalho returned to the kitchen, picked up the phone, and called the owner of the restaurant. She described what she had seen and said that she didn't know what to do. The owner, Rafaela Cabede, said, "Call the police immediately," which Mrs. Carvalho did. She asked the police dispatcher for advice. The dispatcher, Fahad Mumtaz, did not give her advice. He just said, "The police are on their way." Police officer Brett Brubaker arrived, spoke with Mrs. Carvalho, and approached the table. He told the man at the table that he would need to speak to the boy alone. And the police officer and the boy went outside. But the boy, whose name is Timothy, told Officer Brubaker that his bruises and cut were from an accident. So it could have ended right there, but another police officer arrived, Sergeant Sonia Sanders. She had experience with battered children, so she started listening patiently to Timothy. The upshot is that Timothy went straight to the hospital for treatment, and the officers arrested the stepdad, the man, on the spot. Investigation revealed that Timothy was being tortured and starved, and that he had actually come near the point of death. Except Ms. Carvalho noticed. The saint we remember today, Emily Malbone Morgan, reminds me of Ms. Carvalho. Emily was born during the Civil War and grew up in Hartford, Connecticut, in a well-to-do family. She had it made. She could have coasted through life on the family wealth and prestige, but she must have had a gift to notice the needs of others. Her older brother Edward wrote that Emily at age 12 received a $1 bill for Christmas. It's a lot of money then. And Edward ran into her on the street. She was trying to find a way to break the $1 bill into pennies so that she could put a penny in the hat of any beggar she encountered. When Emily was 21, she noticed that one of her childhood friends, Adeline Howard, was suffering from a hip ailment and was living a lonely life in a town away from friends and family. So the next year, Emily and Adeline joined to create the Society of the Companions of the Holy Cross, an organization that allowed Adeline and other women of faith to practice intercessory prayers and work for social justice. This society still exists today, 136 years later. Finally, Emily noticed the women and children working in the New England textile mills. These were large factories that took raw cotton, for instance, and turned it into cloth. In Emily's time, these mills were a bad place to work. According to journalist Rebecca Beatrice Brooks, when mill owners cut production and lowered wages, Irish immigrants stepped in to take these lower paying jobs, replacing the native New England women workers. The immigrant women also brought their children with them into the mills to work with them on the machines, so child labor was being practiced. Emily noticed the exhaustion of the workers, long days, 6 days a week. A major part of Emily's life's work became providing vacation homes throughout New England where the mill workers and their children could come for rest in peaceful and comfortable surroundings. Why do we recognize saints? Why does the church call our attention to them? Not to make us ordinary folks feel inferior. Rather, saints are the ones who give us glimpses of the light of God's grace, a light shining in an often dark world. Emily Malbone Morgan used her gift of noticing others and caring about them. In doing so, she channeled God's grace to beggars, lonely women, exhausted women, and child workers. She was a soldier in the Jesus movement. Let her life remind you that God cares about you too. God cares about you. And let her life perhaps challenge you to notice need where you may encounter it. Maybe the need of a little boy in a restaurant with no food in front of him and bruises on his body. Amen.
Amen.